Hi everyone! I know it's been a while since my last upload, but that just means this comeback had to be extra special. I've spent the past months soaking up the sun, riding my motorcycle and letting my creativity breathe. And now I'm back with something hauntingly personal. Welcome back to Reovations. As you can already see, I'm using my favorite Monster High doll for this project, which is Golia. I'm starting off with cutting her hair, removing her original face up with Aceton, and putting her head into hot water so I can pop off the head a little easier. And after removing all of the remaining hair plugs, as always, I'm shrinking my doll's head with an aceton water mixture and leave it in there for a few days. Of course, this step is totally optional depending on what you want. So last year I bought so many silicone molds for Halloween from Sissy's Creation on Etsy, but I never had the chance to use them on any project. So I thought, it is time! And look at them, they are awesome! I decided to start with the molds because they always take up to 3 days to completely dry and harden, so it always takes a while. And I'm using the brand Let's Resin for this project. Don't forget to wear gloves! So epoxy resin usually comes with 2 parts, a resin and a hardener. You just mix them together, usually in a 1:1 ratio, stir it for a couple of minutes until it's clear, and once combined, the magic starts. The mixture slowly hardens into a glossy, glass-like finish. So the molds I'm using for this project are the super cute voodoo doll, of course our tombstone, and some candles. Alright, let's start this. First of all, let's switch her arms with some skeleton arms, and before doing anything else, I'm already securing her final position with some Superglue. And yep, the legs have to go as well, because we need some skeleton ones. After that, I'm using my hand drill to make the holes a little bigger, so I can just push the skeleton leg into it. And thanks God, this was pretty quick and easy. And done! And before I'm going over to the sculpting process, I am securing the legs with super glue as well. And it is time for Apoxie Sculpt. While searching for a medieval clothing inspiration, I stumbled upon a design on Pinterest that instantly caught my eye, a hooded gown with a corset. This felt dark, mysterious and absolutely perfect for her story, so I started creating it. And don't worry if your sculpting isn't perfect right away. Apoxie Sculpt can always be sanded down once it's cured, so rough edges or uneven spots aren't a big deal. And since her clothes are meant to look worn and aged, imperfection actually adds to the story in this case. Here I'm just adding some details to the corset, just small textures and shapes to make it feel more handmade and lived in. Next, I'm sculpting the base shape for the sleeves. I'm not going for symmetry or perfection here, just something that flows naturally with her body. And remember, Apoxie Sculpt gives you plenty of time to work, so take it slow, don't stress. You can always smooth, reshape or sand later. And now I'm shaping the lower part of her outfit, basically sculpting the skirt directly onto the doll. I'm going for something that feels heavy and old, like it's been dragging through dust and time. Now the sculpting is done. It's time to let her rest. So while she's drying in peace, I'll start working on her first accessory, which is her lantern. Because what's a lonely graveyard walk without a flickering light to guide the way, right? To create the glass panels for her lamp, I'm using UV resin and shaping small square pieces directly on clear plastic. This type of resin hardens quickly under UV light, so it's perfect for tiny details like this. And now I'm using black Worbla to create the frame of the lantern, forming these little borders and assembling everything into a square. It's a bit fiddly, but so satisfying once it clicks together. And by the way, I absolutely love how the resin glass turned out. It almost looks like cracked ice. Some pieces even have tiny fractures in them, which makes it feel old and fragile and kind of magical. Like it's been through a lot, you know, just like her. To bring the lantern into life, I'm using a tiny LED light. It's small enough to fit inside, but powerful enough to cast a warm, glowing light. Alright, this is the last step. I am making the top of the lantern using UV resin again. I'm shaping it in a little dome form, kind of like an old oil lamp. But I'm not sealing the whole lantern just yet, because I still need to place the light inside, so I'm leaving one side open so we can add the glowing core later on. Alright, let's continue building our little grave scene. Time to bring some darkness to the base. These purple decoration stones will become the soil of our little grave scene. I'm placing them into a small wooden tray and build the base. And I'm using my black airbrush to give them a spooky makeover. And by the way, I didn't cover all of the purple stones on purpose, since the lantern will sit there and the light will reflect off the surface and create a really cool glowing effect. And don't worry, our tombstone will not look that clean in the end anymore. While I already had some paint on my fingers, I decided to go ahead and paint the candles as well, using a warm sandy color to give them that old waxy cemetery vibe. Let's skip this sanding process and let's go over to the fun stuff. Well, our Apoxie Sculpt has fully cured and now it's time to bring her to life with some paint. And while I start painting her cloak and skin, I'm guessing you're already wondering, who is she? What is she doing in a cemetery in the middle of the night holding a lantern and staring at her own grave? Well, let me tell you her story. There are moments she still remembers. Warm sunlight on her face, laughter in distant rooms, the feeling of bare feet on soft earth. But those memories are fading, slipping through the cracks of time. She doesn't remember her name or how she died, only that something was left unfinished. She's been searching ever since. Night after night, decade after decade, she roams the forgotten past between gravestones. A lantern in one hand and a voodoo doll in the other. That little doll is her only pope, a fragile vessel of magic stitched together with pieces of her soul. If she finds her grave and performs the ritual right, maybe, just maybe, she can bring herself back. Not for vengeance, not to haunt the living, but to feel again, to breathe again, to live the life she barely remembers. One more time. So yeah, that's the story behind our mysterious lady here. And to create the effect on the lantern light hitting her cloak, I'm using soft pastels to add a warm, glowing shimmer to certain areas. It helps guide the viewer's eye like the light gently dancing across the fabric. Now I'm shading her bony arms and skeletal legs with soft pastels again to bring out the shape and give her a more sunken, undead look. Just enough to make it feel like she's been buried, but not forgotten. And finally, our face up. Let's give this dead girl a soul. To start her face up, I sketched out the basic shape of her eyes, using watercolor pencils, just to map out her expression and get the symmetry right. I wanted her eyes to feel intense, almost haunted, so I gave her glowing red irises, as if the light from the lantern lives inside her gaze. Then I went over the details with acrylic paint, slowly building depth and contrast, until her eyes started staring back. To deepen her gaze, I'm adding a soft purple shadow on her eyelids, top and bottom. It gives her a dreamy, slightly ghostly presence. I'm really happy how her face came out. It captures everything I imagined. Strength, sorrow and mystery. Now she finally has a face to match her story. And of course, let's not forget our little guy here. He needs some color as well. I'm painting the doll in soft neutrals with rough stitches and a glowing red heart. Alright, here is the last part, our hair. I pre-cut small red hair strings and glued them individually into the hood, so the hair flows naturally without covering her face. It's a small detail, but it makes a big difference. To be honest, I couldn't decide between white hair and red hair at first, but in the end I went with red. It just ties in so well with her glowing eyes and the little heart of her voodoo doll. It makes everything feel more connected. Now that all the pieces are ready, it's finally time to bring everything together. The figure, the grave, the lantern, and of course all the little details that make this scene come to life. First I'm placing the candles around the grave. They will mark the space for her ritual. And now I'm attaching the voodoo doll to her side, close to her hand, where it belongs. This little figure has followed her through time. The hair is a little too long for my taste, so let's give it a little trim. Wow, this looks so cool already! Okay, her last accessory. I'm placing the LED light inside of her lantern, and with that, our girl is complete! Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and her strange little story. Thank you so much for being here, for watching, listening and staying till the end. Seriously, if you made it this far, you deserve a candlelight grave too. If you like this, feel free to leave a comment or even subscribe, it helps me more than you know. Until next time, stay spooky, stay creative and keep chasing your second chances. See you on my next project. Take care.